following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. Welcome to Hot Stove League Baseball in the Zone. I'm Ralph Tycho, and this is the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. We've got a bevy of folks to join us for the first one of the season. First person up, a new author. Congratulations, Eric. How are
you? Thank you, Ralph.
Good to have you back in the zone. Tell me about the book and how it got started and the thrill of fruition.
Well, I mean, it got started simply enough. I was at a Giants game with my wife and my daughter and our friend, and somewhere around the middle of the game, I just turned to them and said, so what's your favorite game that you've ever been to, or your favorite moment in a game? And I went home. They gave me their answers. I went home. I sent an email to a bunch of people. And to make a long story short, that's how the idea got started. I got a story from a friend who likes baseball less than anyone I know. I included him on my email just to give him a hard time. And from that point on, I just started collecting stories from friends of friends, people in an airport, restaurant, wherever you were, and you had a sports paraphernalia on, I was checking with you. And wound up with over 1,250 stories from 700 different people. And
you would think that I would get your full name, spoken properly, Eric Gray, Eric C.
That's
Gray.
It.
Your first book. I'm so happy. You've been a guest on this show before, and the project was new, and you were so excited, and you keep your enthusiasm and your excitement. Have we been joined by anyone else?
Yeah, I'm Ronnie Rabinovich.
Ronnie Rabinovich is here.
Yeah.
Ronnie Rabinovich, Eric Gray. Who else?
Hey, Ron.
Hi, Eric.
Jerry
Feidelberg from our network. This is the first Hot Stove League show of the winter, so to speak. It's not even winter yet, and I'm already Jones in baseball. So I think to get us through, if we do this on a regular basis and we relive our memories, it'll be great. For those
Ralph.
Hey,
Ralph, let me just say one thing since Ron's on the phone. I've got a story from Ron in my book, and it's just a really wonderful story that, in essence, describes his relationship with Jackie Robinson. And to go further for some of you who don't know about the book or don't really know much about it, it's just a collection of people's stories about their experiences with baseball. And I will say that the book is, as my friend describes it, less a baseball book than a human interest book in a baseball jersey. So if anybody's interested, you can contact me. Ralph could get you my contact information, and I'm always looking for more stories for volumes 2 and 3.
What's the best way to contact you, Eric?
You can find me through my website, and they're all going to be very similar, basestobleachers.com. I have a Facebook page called, not surprisingly, Bases to Bleachers, or you could just find me on Facebook and send me a message.
Beautiful. For our listening audience who doesn't know about Ron Rabinovich, tell us what you do for baseball. Tell us what you do for humanity, Ron.
Well, thanks, Ralph. I was a very dear friend, as Eric had mentioned, of Jackie Robinson's, and I go around the country and speak about him. Matter of fact, I was at Target Field this morning talking to kids about Jackie. I didn't want anybody to forget him. And I've been doing this for many, many years already, probably 30 years. I speak at corporations, companies, organizations, and schools, and kind of like a Pied Piper, telling the story of my friendship with my dear friend.
Okay, would you summarize that a little bit for those of you who don't know how that friendship got started?
Sure. Well, I grew up in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and my dad told me about Jackie and said, how would you love to meet him? And I said, boy, would I love that. Well, unbeknownst to me, he wrote Jackie a letter, didn't want to tell me about it because he didn't want me disappointed in case Jackie didn't respond. And I got a letter back from Jackie with an autographed picture, and he said next time the club's in Milwaukee playing the Braves, he would love to meet me. At that time, the Atlanta Braves were the Milwaukee Braves. So we met him after a game outside the locker room, and we became friends right away. He said to me, stay in touch. So I wrote him a letter. He wrote me back, and we had this pen pal relationship that went on for several years. And we had many dinners and lunches together. He was at my 10th birthday party. It was a great day. I'll never forget it. He hit a home run that day. As he was rounding third, he waved to me like that was for me. And then that night he came in our car, and we took him to this restaurant where I had a big birthday party, and he was singing happy birthday to me. It was a thrill of a lifetime. And then also he sent me a telegram when I graduated from high school, and we were friends all the way up until the time he passed away in 1972.
Wow.
Yeah.
Most people don't remember. They see pictures of Jackie Robinson later on. He was white-haired, overweight.
Yes, he was. Yes.
But he was 53 years old, is all.
When he died. That's all. He was a young man. I was with him about 6 months. Ralph, I was with him about 6 months before he passed away in New York. I used to get to New York a lot, and we'd have lunch many times. But he was in rough shape. He had had a heart attack. He suffered from diabetes. He was blind in one eye, going blind in the other eye. And I had to actually take him by the hand and help him into the restaurant. And I felt so sad because I remember him dancing up and down the bases, driving those pitchers crazy. And now I was helping him, and he was so happy to see me. He wanted to hear all about my family, and I, of course, about his. And after lunch, I hailed him a cab. I got him settled in the cab, and I leaned in. I kissed him on the cheek, and I told him how much I loved him. As that cab disappeared into space, I was standing on that corner with tears running down my cheeks because I knew I would never see him again.
Wow.
What a story.
Yeah.
That's a great
very
story.
Poignant story. Ronnie.
Thank you.
Great story.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Jerry
He was
Feidelberg,
a
have
great
you
guy.
met Ronnie Rabinovich?
Only on Facebook and on the phone. I haven't met him.
Well,
How are you, Jerry?
Ronnie, so you know Jerry Feidelberg is a journalist in the press boxes here in the Bay Area. He was also the team pharmacist for the A's back in the 90s.
Great.
And he's got some great stories and great memories. Originally a Boston Red Sox fan. When you grew up in Boston, it's the end of the baseball season for us all. Jerry, how do you get over the Jones of baseball each year? Of missing baseball.
Well, right now, I'm doing Warrior basketball, and I'm going to be doing Stanford basketball this winter. And I have the good fortune of I'm going to be covering the Stanford Notre Dame game on November 30th at Stanford Stadium. So I'm keeping busy. You know, and I'm also credentialed with the San Jose Sharks. So if I have a free night, I can go down to the SAP Center in San Jose and watch a hockey game, which is kind of hard to do with that schedule.
Okay.
But
I might add, too, that Jerry, like most of us on this network, we're kind of up there in age. We're senior citizens. Jerry, how old did you turn the other day?
A week from Saturday, I will be 81.
Oh, wow.
Boy, wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're in good voice, good spirit. You kept your passion, and that's what it's all about. Jerry, tell me a little bit about your Red Sox this year and how they didn't fare.
Oh, the Red Sox had a wonderful year last year. They won their 4th World Series of the 21st century. They won 108 games, and they won 11 more to win the World Series. And everyone thought everything was going to be fine, and they were going to repeat in 2019. And that was not the case. Their starting pitching fell apart. They had no bullpen. They let Craig Kimbrell go. They let Joe Kelly go. And the team was in a shambles. And you have to get guys out, and they couldn't do it. They fired their general manager, Dave Dombrowski. They brought a guy in now from Tampa Bay, Chaim Bloom. And I think they appointed Brendan O'Halloran as their new general manager. So they have to work.
Chaim is the guy that I wish the Mets had gotten last year, and he is a gem. He's led. He's been instrumental in that Tampa Bay managerial position, and he's going to do you guys right. So
I think he's a great guy.
If I could digress for a moment, Ronnie, Ronnie. When I was 16 years old, I was playing football on the high school football team, and it was 1955. It was 1955, and the Brooklyn Dodgers were playing the New York Yankees in the World Series.
Right.
Now, as you know, I grew up as a Red Sox fan, but my second favorite team was the Brooklyn Dodgers. And the Brooklyn Dodgers were playing that day, and we stopped football practice. Someone had a portable radio, and we listened to the ninth inning of the World Series game. And when Johnny Padres won the game for the Dodgers, and the Dodgers won the series, we were celebrating because
everybody was going crazy. I'll bet. Yeah, we finally beat those damn Yankees.
beat the Yankees. The Yankees ate the Red Sox lunch forever.
I know.
As a kid.
I know.
In 1949, the Red Sox and David Halverson wrote a wonderful book called The Summer of '49, and he recounts the season. But I remember the last 2 games of the year because I listened to both of them. The Red Sox went into New York with a 1-game lead. All they had to do was win 1 game, and they lost both. And they finished the game behind the Yankees for the pennant in 1949. My brother used to say to me, "Why do you root for the Red Sox? You know they're going to break your heart," and they did. And the heartbreak all ended in 2004 when the Red Sox won their first World Series in 86 years. It was a wonderful moment.
Last year you beat my Dodgers.
I'm sorry.
What is it, Eric? Go ahead.
Yeah, don't you think that in a way this is what makes baseball different? That, I mean, I like the NBA. I'm not a football fan, but I mean, you've said in just your couple of minutes, Jerry, you've said so many things that just made me think about other things. I mean, I'm thinking about you're remembering that they had to win the game against the Yankees. I'm thinking about, I go to a lot of games. I don't necessarily remember everything about them, but boy, I remember when the Giants won their World Series in 2010. What I so clearly remember is that they had to win 1 game of 4 against the Padres. They just had to win 1. And if they didn't win any of them, then there was going to be a 1-game playoff against the Padres in San Diego. And I was at that last game when the Giants won that game and, of course, went on to win the World Series. But, it's like, look at the things that we remember. For my case, it was only 9 years ago. In your case, it was decades ago. I mean, that's, to me, what makes baseball so unbelievable, that we remember these things, the statistics, the stuff from the baseball cards. I mean, this is just... It's just what I said in the book is, for a game that is not, to me, inherently a passionate game, the following of baseball is very passionate.
Yeah,
we have all these memories, yet I can't remember where I left my keys.
Well, Ralph, we all know why.
Yes, we do. Thank you. We've been joined by Michael Duca. Michael Duca is an official scorer. And
No, you mean the official.
himself.
He's not official. He's the officious scorer. Sorry.
And I also might say we now have 3 Alamedans on one phone line. How about that?
How do you like that? That's great.
How do you like that?
And one from Minnesota.
Michael, join the club. It's Hot Stove League Baseball. Give me an early memory that just comes to mind about Jackie Robinson, because Ronnie Rabinovitz is here, and he's the all-time Jackie Robinson, not only an aficionado, but he was a personal friend of Jackie's, and he's got something called Jackie's Letters that he talks to children about the legacy of Jackie Robinson and carries it on. And I'm sure.
And I saw some of Ronnie's stuff when we met the first time. Ronnie, you showed me some of that stuff.
Yes.
It was mind-blowing. I did.
It's got to be.
Thank you.
A letter from Jackie Robinson. Michael, anything you'd like to remember about Jackie?
Well, sure. My Jackie memories are pretty slim. Mostly I remember, like everyone else, towards the end of his life after he had been working at Chock full of Nuts. I remember that, on Monday Night Football, Howard Cosell would refer to him whenever he possibly could as my friend Jack Roosevelt Robinson. And,
right, that's right.
And I didn't get much opportunity to know Jackie, but I have had the distinct privilege of meeting Rachel on a couple of
fabulous.
Occasions. And boy,
she's so fabulous.
Want to talk about the embodiment of grace. That's Rachel.
The best. Absolutely. The wonderful lady. She is such a wonderful lady. She started a foundation the year after he passed away called the Jackie Robinson Foundation. It's a scholarship program for children of color and minorities to go to college. And they have the greatest graduation rate of any scholarship program in the United States, 98%, which is way, way above the national average. And she's a marvelous lady. She's working so hard to get this. They have a museum that's opening in December in New York. It's going to be the Jackie Robinson Museum. And it's going to be a place where people can go and work and learn and teach. It's going to be phenomenal. It's been a dream of hers, and it's coming true. The curator is coming out to Minneapolis to meet me next week. And I have agreed to give her copies of my letters so that she can put them in the museum. So it's going to be a wonderful thing.
Wow. Nice. Not the originals, copies.
Not the originals, copies.
Okay. You're going to keep those originals close to your heart for the rest of your life, I'm sure.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Keep that
I've been offered a lot of money, Ralph, for them.
Money don't keep you warm at night.
No.
Although it will buy a quilt.
Well, it is flammable, Ralph. I can tell you, I've heard a lot of it.
Don't say flammable in California.
Yeah, right. God forbid.
It's inflammable.
Oh, inflammable.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Eric, for the proper use of the word.
Yes. Eric, what was the story your own story that inspired the book?
Well, the story that inspired the book wasn't mine. It was about a friend of mine who, as I mentioned before, likes baseball less than anybody I know, and he just told me about a game a Giants game he'd went to with his dad from San Jose. I think it was I can't remember, honestly, I don't remember if it was his Boy Scout troop or his Temple Youth group or whatever, and it was Dave Kingman's second game, and he just kind of marveled about, just this young talent being so good. But it was about the fact that he said it was the only game I ever went to with my dad, and there's more to the story than what's actually in the book, but that's what got me thinking about it. My own personal story. Now, I was so fortunate to, the other day, be on, if you guys all know the NPR show Here and Now with Robin Young. I was on her show the other day. It was, honestly, Ralph, it's great being on your show, but I'm going to tell you, I'm giving a nod to Robin for being boastful.
We must have a bad connection. I didn't hear that.
Hear what, Ralph? Anyway, so she asked me about
and Ralph too.
That's exactly the reason. Anyway, she had me on her show, and she asked me about my own personal favorite story, and there's no doubt what it was. It was I took my kids to their first game at Candlestick, and my son David was 4, and Rachel was 8. And Rachel brought an entire library with her because she knew how bored she would be. And by about the third inning, David and his friend were completely done with the game. They just had a lot of fun running up and down those very steep steps at Candlestick. And every time I looked at Rachel, she was just in awe of what was going on. Her eyes never left the field. And as I say in the book, it's like she just had seen the Mona Lisa or the Beatles in concert, which was 26 years earlier to the day before. And at that point, her eyes never left the field. She never read any of the books she bought. The only thing she read was the scoreboard and the program that I bought. And then she started listening to Kruko and Kuiper, and she really understood the game. And 7 years later, at the age of 15, she started working for the Giants and still does in guest services, where she runs a press elevator and knows everybody. She's good friends with Marty Lurie, and she's had all kinds of encounters with Orlando Cepeda and Jeff Kent and Oral Hershiser and tons more. That's the story for me. And what I say is that's the story that made it easy for me to not only be to be basically a baseball fan and a family man. I mean, it just helped me combine the two.
It's
anonymous. Speaking of guest services, Michael Duca, your wife, is the head of guest services. Am I correct?
That's right. That's what I was about to tell Eric, is to bring it full circle. She works for my wife.
And who is your wife?
Kelly Duca. She's the senior manager of guest services for the Giants.
I know the name Kelly. I didn't know what her last name. Oh, well, that's a coinky-dink.
How do you like that?
Well, as I say all the time to my adult children, it's a small world. Be careful who you diss.
It is. Well, please tell Kelly about this, and I, of course, will tell Rachel later. Wow, that's amazing.
Isn't that something?
Now, wait a minute. Time out. Rachel, short hair?
Correct.
Perhaps a little ink here and there?
That's relative. She has one tattoo on her arm. That's correct. Her hair is, she's cut her pretty short now, but it hasn't always been short. And so Rachel.
She works the press elevator. I know her very well.
Huh.
Well, we're going to have to make a point of meeting each other.
I will not see her again until late March, but I will certainly remember.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
That's
amazing.
And let me say, the best place to meet Michael Duca and Jerry Feidelberg and yours truly is at Nations on Webster. And we're going to pick a date. We've done this before. We're going to pick a date next week, and Jerry and Michael are going to come to Nations on Webster.
Wonderful.
Best
That'd be great.
In California. You got a day in mind next week, guys? Just maybe we could save a...
I may monkey wrench this whole thing because I have a bucket list trip next week to the Little River Inn up on the coast, and I just heard from them that the power's back on. So yeah, the power is back on up there.
We'll do it the week after then. That'd be great.
Fair enough.
Let me quickly get a Jackie Robinson story in of my own. I graduated from high school, so we're talking about 64, 65, and I'm working for an insurance office in smack in the middle of Harlem, Lenox Avenue and 125th Street. And right next door to that office was chock full of nuts. And Jackie was working at Chock full of Nuts as a vice president. And he would hang outside and have a cigarette or whatever. And every time I saw him, I'd try to go up to him and say something. And I'm not a shy person, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I got a big mouth. I couldn't ever find the words to greet this man with. Every time it was like Ralph Cramden. He would just absolutely intimidated me. And now that I've learned so much about his warmth from reading and from talking to Ronnie and what have you, I'm disgusted with myself that I didn't have the ability to just go up, Mr. Robinson, I just want to tell you that you're great. That would have been enough. I couldn't even do that. So what can I tell you? That's my memory of Jackie. And I am Eric and Michael, that you said a coincidence. That's a word that I use, Eric. The fact that you guys have an extended community through your wife and Kelly. Wow, that's
great.
That's how that's how baseball is. It brings people together in the weirdest of ways.
Well, there's another connection that you just kind of helped me remember. So, I mean, this is not nearly as significant as what we talked about. But, Ron, I know you just got my book last week, so I'm sure you haven't read the whole thing. But
no.
As you know, your story is in the chapter called Doubles, right, which are two stories that are in some way connected to each other. I paired your story with the story of the dad of a high school friend of mine. I mean, how I got the story in itself is just, odd and wonderful. But this story that I paired yours with is by a guy named Jules Organ, and his story is about meeting Jackie Robinson when Jackie was a minor leaguer with the Montreal Dodgers. But the other thing, I'm at the Montreal, the farm team of the Dodgers.
The Royals.
Yeah. I knew I got the team nickname wrong. But the other thing that's not in that story is how he met him a couple of other times, both addressing the college Jackie addressing the college he went to, and also at Chock full of Nuts. So there you go. There's another. Oh wow. There's another coincidence.
Unbelievable.
Well, he was when he worked for Chock full of Nuts. They hired him as a vice president, to recruit blacks, or what was his official job? What?
He was like in human resources. And then also.
Oh, I knew it had something to do with that.
Yeah.
Was he happy doing that, or did he just miss the competition of baseball? What was his adjustment?
He was happy with that. I mean, he loved baseball, of course, and he would have given his eyepiece to be a manager. He would have been a terrific manager. Branch Rickey once said that of all the people he knew, Jackie Robinson would be the best manager of all. And, of course, unfortunately, because of his color of his skin, at the time, he wasn't allowed to be a manager. But he would have been terrific manager. He had a great baseball knowledge.
Michael, you referred to, and I'm going to tie this together, you referred to Howard Cosell saying, my friend Jack Robinson. His friends called him Jack. But
Rachel calls him Jack.
My point is, they did a pre- and post-game show in 62 and 63. Ralph Branca was part of it, but Jackie Robinson was a big part of that show. And he hated the idea that the Mets were losing, that Casey Stengel sat there. He was less been enthralled with Casey's wit and humor and how he entertained the press and all that stuff. He just knew the Mets weren't winning, and he didn't see anything funny about it. He wanted New York to have a winner, and he campaigned openly to be a major league manager.
Yes.
He would have been great.
He would have loved it, and he'd have been fabulous.
He would have loved it,
he'd have been fabulous.
And so much he could have passed on.
That's right.
But,
that's right. It's a
it
shame.
wasn't to be.
It's a shame. But he was happy at Chock-full of Nuts. He was very clear, very dear friends with the owner. They were very close.
Good. He had a good working relationship. In other words,
yeah.
It wasn't
yes.
A chore to go to work.
No.
And that's the way it should be. Work should be fun and your passion, and if you can combine the two, you're not really working. You're doing something you'd rather be doing, and that's
sure.
where it comes out.
Absolutely. You know, we all love baseball so much, and I have a very cute baseball story for all you guys. I think you'll enjoy this. So Abe and Sam are the best of friends. They've been friends for almost 70 years. Love baseball. Played when they were kids. Follow all the team statistics and everything. Abe's in the hospital dying. So Sam comes to visit him. He says, Abe, he says, you and I, we've been buddies for almost 70 years. You got to do me a favor when you get up there. You got to somehow let me know if they have baseball up there. Because if they don't have baseball up there, I'm not interested. So Abe passed away, and about 3 weeks later, Sam is sound asleep. 3 o'clock in the morning, he hears, Sam. He opens his eyes. He looks all around the room. He says, yeah. He says, it's Abe. He says, hi, Abe. He says, Sam, I have good news for you and bad news. He says, well, what's the good news? He says, baseball, you wouldn't believe. The most beautiful manicured diamonds you've ever seen. Fans like crazy. I'm playing third base. I'm batting .395. He says, that's fabulous. He says, so what's the bad news? He says, you're pitching on Tuesday.
Great one.
That's a great
Isn't
story.
That cute? Isn't that a great story? Yeah.
Ronnie, I have a question
ahead.
for you. If Jack Robinson were playing today, how much money do you think they'd be paying him as a player? He wouldn't have had to work for Chock-full of Nuts coffee.
He sure wouldn't have.
He would have owned them.
He sure wouldn't have. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Unbelievable.
What would Jackie like about today's game, Ronnie?
I don't know if he would like it the way it is. I think they're changing too many things, and I honestly don't know if he would like that. All this analytic crap, and all of that. I mean, it is important, but it isn't too. I mean, sometimes you have to go by the seat of your pants and what you know, and
Yeah, it's a tool, but it should be incorporated. It shouldn't be the only thing people depend on.
No, that's right. So things have changed a lot in baseball over the last few years, and to be honest with you, in my opinion, it's not for the best. And I think he would have felt that too.
Okay. Jerry, let's go around the room, starting with you. Anything to add before we call it a podcast?
Well, I would just like to give a shout out to the Washington Nationals and the Houston Astros for a terrific World Series. I thought the Nationals play throughout the entire playoffs was amazing. What a gritty team. They started off 19-31. And then they came on strong at the end, and they won every must game that they had to win, and they deserve to be champions. And nothing wrong with the Houston Astros, but they just weren't as good as the Nationals. So hats off to Washington, their first World Championship since 1924. It's really terrific.
Good.
Yeah, it is.
Michael,
it's great.
Michael Duca.
Well, a couple of things, I think. First of all, I was, I think, the only person that I can recall who posted before the first game of this World Series that it will be the first World Series ever televised from the nation's capital, which puts into perspective what that 1924, how different things were back then.
Right.
I also want to remind all those people who were, it's you I have in mind, John Smoltz, who were gushing over the fact that the Nationals managed to win 5 elimination games this year, that it was just 5 years ago that 7 years ago now, that a team won 6 elimination games en route to a world championship. And finally,
San
I checked
Francisco Giants.
Yes, indeed. And then I checked Wikipedia this morning, and the page labeled home field advantage is now blank.
That's beautiful.
That's terrific.
That's very good. Eric Gray.
Something that Jerry said early on, or I guess when you asked Jerry about how he felt about the Red Sox, their season, and it's something I thought about, and I guess you could probably make a whole discussion about this one, is that in baseball, it seems to me it's really not that hard to fall from winning the World Series to not even making the playoffs. I mean, the Giants did it, I think two, if not all 3 of their World Series titles was followed by very mediocre at best years. And when you think about the fact that you only have, now, and before it was only 4, you only have 5 teams make the playoffs from each league. If you think about the fact you have a couple of injuries, a couple of people leave to free agency, it's really not that hard to fall. So when people talk about what a disappointing year the Red Sox had, I mean, they were still in contention for a playoff spot until, fairly far along. And that's just kind of the thought that I had about the season.
Well, if I can jump in and respond to that, can I respond to that for a minute? I think that people vastly underestimate how much a month of playoffs takes out of a team. Mm-hmm. And I think they vastly underestimate how much winning takes out of a team, because, I look on my timeline for Facebook and it pops up memories. And, today it popped up memories of one of 3 parades that I got to walk in. And we forget that it's fundamentally the second week of November before a winning team has finished parades and awards and packing and getting back home. And the second week of November is when everybody else starts their postseason workouts. So either you do without the workouts or you do without the rest. And I don't think anything has proven that more than looking at the Giants' run early in this decade when it was every other year. And indeed, they had poor years in 2011 and 2013. 2015, they came within having one guy in the bullpen of knocking the eventual world champions out of the playoffs with the Cubs.
Right.
So I'm not sure that I'll call that an off year, but there is essentially no off season when you win. I mean, you're already, by the time you finish going through free agency and get to the winter meetings, you're already thinking about looking for a place to stay in the spring.
Yeah.
Stick with me for a second, because this is going to come full circle. Jerry, it is so difficult to repeat. I might call attention to the New York Yankees winning 5 world championships in a row between 1949 and 1953. Now, this is how baseball comes together. One of the people, Charlie Silvera, was on all 5 of those teams. We lost Charlie this year. Charlie was a good friend of Michael Dukas. And Charlie also gave me the second interview I ever had with a ball player. Back in 95, I just started doing this. Charlie was my second guest. Leonard Coppett was my first guest. Charlie Silvera was my second guest, broke me into this type of thing. He was a wonderful man, and we, as I say, we lost him this year. Michael, would you share some of Charlie Silvera with us?
Well, I think the quintessential Charlie story, when you got to know Charlie would invite you over to his house, which is up in the hills overlooking San Francisco Airport. And you walked into Charlie's house, and there was a little wet bar just to the left of his fireplace and mantle. And there were some shelves even above the mantle on the fireplace. And on one of those shelves, there was a beer stein. And the contents of that beer stein constitute a story all unto themselves. Charlie collected memorabilia. I mean, in his house, I put on the glove he used to warm up, the glove that he used to warm up Don Larson. I held bats in my hand from Ted Williams, from Joe DiMaggio, from Jimmy Fox, from Mickey Mantle, from just unbelievable pieces of memorabilia. A uniform that Joe D wore in the minor leagues that Charlie had, photographs, unbelievable stuff. But as Charlie himself pointed out to me, he didn't have anything from Yogi, and Yogi was literally his best friend. That wet bar has wallpaper on it, pink wallpaper, with baseballs, and it was leftover wallpaper from Yogi's basement. Now, yeah, and if you came to visit Charlie, you had to sign one of the baseballs, and the baseballs were all full, so Charlie told me, I'll just sign right there, and pointed to a baseball that I shared with a fellow East Bay person by the name of Alfred Manuel Martin, known better as Billy.
Billy Martin.
So at the end of Yogi's career, when he was coaching for the Mets, he came to town, and Charlie went down to see him, and Charlie said, Yogi, I have a piece of memorabilia from everybody I played with who mattered to me, except you. And Yogi looked me square in the eye, and he said, I don't have anything that's been close to you. And Yogi looked him right in the eye and said, well, you can't have Carmen. So instead, Yogi, and God is my witness, I've seen it, Yogi took off his jockstrap with the number 8 written on it in felt pen and handed it to Charlie. And Charlie had that jockstrap folded up and tucked into the beer stein. And the reason it was there was because he said, Rose told me I couldn't have it in the house, so I had to put it too high for her to reach.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous.
That sounds like Charlie. Great story.
That is funny.
Hey, let's do this, guys, on a regular basis. I am so happy that you all contributed today. The first Hot Stove League of the season, 2019 to 2020. It's going to be a long winter. Thank you for making it much shorter, gentlemen.
Thank you for asking me to participate.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ralph.
We will be back before you know it. If you guys would befriend each other on Facebook, it would make things a lot easier in communicating. This is a good dynamics. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Ralph.
Thanks,
guys.
Ralph.
And again,
thank
you for listening out there. If you want to do us all a big favor, because we all have a vested interest in the Ute of America, as Casey Stengel would say, would you be kind enough to box up some used or slightly used, I might add, or even new children's books and bring them down to the Head Start program wherever you are? Kids need to develop a passion. They need to be school ready. They need to learn to read and get their noses out of the devices and the computers. Let them read. Give them some books. These are the kids that need it the most. Do that if you enjoy our offerings, and we will all be appreciative We'll catch you next time. Thank you very much. It's the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Adios.
Bye-bye.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned Network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.